Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a letter that's almost 2,000 years old. It was written to a community that was right in the middle of a major crisis, and it tackles some of the biggest human challenges you can imagine. Things like division, our identity, and where we find hope.
So let's just jump right in. It's a huge question, right? Well, that's exactly what we're looking at with the book of 1 Corinthians. It's a letter from the Apostle Paul, and he's writing to a brand new, vibrant, but seriously troubled church. And the advice he gives them, well, it would echo for centuries.
All right, first things first. Before we can even get into the mess happening in the church, we have to understand the city they were in. To really get this letter, you have to get Corinth.
Okay, so picture this. Corinth was not some sleepy little town. It was a massive hub for trade and culture in the Roman Empire. Think of a booming, diverse, cosmopolitan center. But here's the thing. It was also infamous for its wild pagan temple culture, which normalized all sorts of practices that were the complete opposite of this new Christian faith. Just imagine trying to build a community with a whole new set of values in the middle of that. That was the incredible challenge they were up against.
And that chaotic environment, well, it was definitely having an effect. The new Christian church in Corinth was having some serious growing pains. Paul starts getting reports that the community isn't just struggling a little bit, it's in a total, full-blown crisis.
And the list of problems? Whoa, it was long. The community was breaking up into factions, with people saying things like, I follow this leader. Well, I follow that leader. They were actually taking each other to public court. There were scandals. People were misusing their spiritual gifts to show off, and they were even fighting about whether it was okay to eat meat that had been used in pagan rituals. It was just messy.
So, how in the world does Paul respond to all this chaos? You might think he'd just send them a list of rules, a simple do this, don't do that. But he goes so much deeper. He points them all the way back to the very foundation of their faith to solve their very real, practical problems.
And this is where it gets really brilliant. Look at how he connects each problem to a core principle. To all the divisions, he basically says, guys, stop focusing on your favorite teachers and unite under Christ. To the lawsuits, he asks, can't you all resolve this with love and forgiveness inside the community? And to all the pride around spiritual gifts, he reminds them that those abilities aren't for personal glory. They're for building everybody else up.
Then, right at the absolute heart of his whole argument, he gives them this incredible passage, what we now call the love chapter. You've probably heard it before. Paul completely redefines love, not as a feeling, but as an action, as something that's patient, kind, and selfless. He argues that without that kind of love, all their spiritual gifts, all their knowledge, it all means nothing. It's the essential ingredient. And this leads right to the second pillar of his answer, hope. After he talks about love, Paul moves to the resurrection. He dedicates an entire chapter to explaining why the resurrection of Jesus is so important, reminding them that their entire faith is built on this single world-changing event. So here's the crucial point. For Paul, the resurrection wasn't just some historical fact. No, it was the promise of their own future resurrection. And having this ultimate hope was supposed to completely reframe their current problems. I mean, if your future is secure and eternal, then all the divisions and arguments you're having right now start to look a whole lot smaller, don't they?
So, that's the ancient story. But it's totally fair to ask, why should we care about a letter written to a struggling little church 2,000 years ago? What makes it matter today?
Well, it matters because the problems haven't really changed all that much. Communities, and not just religious ones, still wrestle with factions and divisions. We still debate morality and ethics. We're all still searching for purpose and a way to live together. The core issues are just fundamentally human, and they're timeless.
Seriously, 2,000 years later, and Paul's core advice is still a radical challenge. His call to put the group ahead of yourself, to act with selfless love, and to hold on to a hope that's bigger than your immediate problems, that's just as powerful now as it was back then. So, what's the big takeaway from this ancient letter? It's kind of like a blueprint. It's a timeless guide for any group of people trying to deal with their own internal conflicts by focusing on three huge things: unity over division, selfless love over selfish pride, and a hope that puts everything else in perspective. And that leaves us with a really powerful question, one that 1 Corinthians basically asks every single generation. In a world that so often feels more fractured than ever, what does it truly take to build a community that's unified, loving, and hopeful?
It was the challenge of Corinth, and it's definitely the challenge for us today.